Oh, hello. Welcome to another programme of That's English.
Hello.
What are you reading, Samantha?
Oh, it's a book of ghost stories. What about you?
Oh, I'm reading a biography. I don't read much fiction. I prefer non-fiction.
Oh, I like both. I especially like crime fiction.
Well, you'll enjoy today's episode then, as it's a ghost story mixed with crime. Mr. and Mrs. Dalton, the neighbours, are spending the evening with Karen and Colin, one of her work colleagues.
You'll hear them talk about a B&B. That means bed and breakfast. In other words, a simple guest house where you stay the night.
As you watch, answer this question. Why do Karen and Colin want to stay at the guest house in Hazel Lane?
Many years ago, we went to London for a night out. I had booked a nice bed and breakfast for us. It must have been our first wedding anniversary. We were still living outside London with Rosie's mother.
It was our second anniversary. And I was expecting to go to a nice hotel, not a B&B. This may be as near as I'll get to a hotel in Park Lane.
Shh. Let me tell a story. Now, where was I?
In the bed and breakfast with me, room 6.
Yes, room 6, on the first floor. Anyway, after dinner, the landlady very kindly invited us to a glass of brandy.
To celebrate our anniversary.
It must have been after midnight by the time we got to bed. I was lying there, half asleep, and suddenly I heard a strange sound, a sort of moaning. I thought Rosie was having a bad dream, but she was fast asleep. After a while, it stopped, and eventually I fell asleep. The next morning, as we were leaving, I saw a face at the window of our room.
Look.
A face at the window. You've read too many ghost stories. Or it might have been the brandy.
Wait a minute. I think there could be something in that story. Where was the bed and breakfast?
Hazel Lane.
Hazel Lane. I've read something about Hazel Lane. I think there could have been a murder there.
Well, why don't you find out about it in the office tomorrow?
Apparently, in 1955, a woman was found murdered in a bed and breakfast in Hazel Lane. You'll never guess where.
Room 6.
And, seemingly, her wedding finger was missing. Somebody had cut it off.
Oh, cut off.
Supposedly, a man was arrested for the crime. Ever since then, there have been stories of a moaning noise coming from room 6.
So, Mr. Dalton may have heard something. Room 6 might be haunted.
I know what we can do. We'll stay at the guest house and investigate. We could write a bestseller. I have the title, The Haunting of Hazel Lane.
Hold on, Sherlock Holmes. Don't get carried away. We haven't got a story yet. Anyway, the B&B can't still be open, can it, after all this time?
Yes, it is. I've checked.
Can I stay in room 6?
OK. I'll have a look on the internet and see if we can book 2 rooms for tonight.
Well, I think Karen's very brave. I wouldn't want to stay in a haunted guest house.
Did you get the answer to the question? Why do Karen and Colin want to stay at the guest house in Hazel Lane?
So, Mr. Dalton may have heard something. Room 6 might be haunted.
I know what we can do. We'll stay at the guest house and investigate.
So they want to investigate the story about the ghost in room 6.
In the video, we heard people speculating about the past.
It must have been our first wedding anniversary.
A face at the window. You've read too many ghost stories. Or it might have been the brandy.
I think there could have been a murder there.
Remember, we use must have if we are sure about something and might have, could have or may have if we are not so sure.
We also use can't have if we are sure that something isn't true.
The Daltons can't have invented the story. Something must have happened in the B&B or it wouldn't be in the newspaper.
I think they may have invented it.
Well, let's see what happens when Karen and Colin stay at the B&B.
Try to answer this question as you watch. Who are the two main characters in Karen's story?
Here we are, the scene of the crime.
Do you think that could be room 6?
It might be. Let's find out.
Guess what? I heard the moaning sound last night.
No.
I hadn't been asleep long when the sound woke me up. I lay there for ages, listening. All of a sudden, it stopped.
You should have come and told me.
I was afraid to move.
It may have been the wind.
It wasn't windy last night.
You want some breakfast?
I'm not very hungry.
Karen. I have a confession to make. It was me. I played a recording outside your door last night.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to get you for this.
I have to get my bag. I've paid the bill.
Good morning.
Good morning, dear. I hope you slept all right. People don't usually stay in room 6.
No? Why not?
But it all started with the murder. In 1955, it was terrible.
So room 6 isn't haunted then?
No, room 6 may not be haunted. But after Colin had gone back to his room, the landlady told me a very interesting story. Apparently, the killer told the story when he was in prison.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Well, it all happened when the killer was escaping from the scene of the crime. Supposedly, he was driving through the countryside when the car ran out of petrol. He walked to a cottage and asked the owner if he could use the phone. The woman invited him in and showed him to the phone. When he had finished his call, the man waited for help to come. After a while, the woman offered him some tea. As she was stirring her tea, the man noticed that her wedding finger was missing. The man had been staring at the woman's hand for some time when she suddenly said, "Somebody cut my finger off." At this point, the killer started to feel very uncomfortable. "Do you know who cut my finger off?" she asked. The man whispered, "No." And the woman said, "You did!" Stop it, Colin.
It can't be me. I haven't got the recording with me.
Karen invented the story to frighten everyone.
But it must have been true. We heard the ghost of the woman at the end.
Oh, come on, it can't have been her.
Did you answer the question? Who are the two main characters in Karen's story?
Well, it all happened when the killer was escaping from the scene of the crime. The woman invited him in and showed him to the phone. "Do you know who cut my finger off?" she asked. The man whispered, "No." And the woman said, You did!
So, the main characters are the murdered woman and her killer.
When Karen told the story, she used several expressions for narrating.
I lay there for ages, listening. All of a sudden, it stopped.
Well, it all started with the murder.
After a while, the woman offered him some tea. At this point, the killer started to feel very uncomfortable.
We use expressions like for ages, all of a sudden, it all started, it all happened, after a while, at this point, to help the listener follow the story and make it more dramatic.
It all happened late one night. I was making a sandwich in the kitchen when all of a sudden I felt something behind me. I turned around, and at this point a cup on the shelf above me started to shake violently, and then it crashed to the floor.
Oh, it must have been a ghost. Now, to change the subject, let's find out what people in the street like reading.
We asked them this question. Are you more interested in non-fiction or fiction? Why?
I'll be more interested in non-fiction. I don't particularly read too many fiction stories or books. I prefer just to collect facts and figures, which all help in a pub quiz now and again.
It used to be fiction, and now I'm more interested in non-fiction. I think as I've got older, I like to read about events that have happened that have actually, true life events and people's experiences.
I'd say a bit of both, because one you can be learning from, and the other one you can lose yourself in. So, I don't really have a particular that's a favourite. I will do both. And sometimes it can just depend on how I'm feeling. If I just want to get lost in something and not have to think about it, then I'll go one way. And if I've got more time to focus on something, then I'll go the other way. My favourite book from my childhood is The Cat in the Hat. I don't know why, I just always loved that story, and it was one of those that the images were so fantastic, they were so colourful, and it was just something that then I read to my brothers, and that, I would say, has been one of my favourite books ever.
I'm pretty conventional in my reading. I like 19th century novels, I like things with a good story, I like things where the dialogue is so good that I can read the end but it doesn't matter because I'm enjoying the dialogue. Fiction.
Because non-fiction is just your normal life anyway, so there's nothing too exciting about that, really. I'm reading the Hunger Games series at the minute. I like that, and obviously that's nothing like real life, so that's perfect.
So, some people prefer non-fiction because they're more interested in real-life events, while others prefer fiction because it's nothing like real life.
One speaker said this was her favourite book when she was a child, The Cat in the Hat.
And the last speaker said he was reading this, The Hunger Games.
Oh, I've read it, and I can tell you it's nothing like real life.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Happy reading. Bye.
Bye-bye.